I'd like to pick up on something that you mentioned in your previous comment, Dan. You said that regulations, it's not just for Europe and the United States, but that these higher standards have broader implications for the globe. Can you comment a little bit on how you think these higher standards would affect third countries? And by third countries, I also mean to include developing and emerging market economies, where you may have, for example, smaller producers that might actually have trouble meeting the higher standards that the U.S. and Europe might set. As we know, we live in a time of budget constraints where capacity building might, trade capacity building might be less available in terms of resources. So how would you address how these higher standards will affect third countries?
Well, there's several aspects to the question. One is, if we, between the United States and Europe, are able to converge, mutually recognize, decrease the number of unnecessary differences between us, of course, that reduces the cost even for the third countries that service those markets. So you sell a product in the United States, you may be able to sell it in Europe without changing the specifications of the product. So we maintain the high standards, but we reduce the diversity of the standards that even third countries, developing countries have to meet. So it creates a larger market. It creates a market that's easier to service. I think one of the things that we're attempting to do in the agreement in the regulatory area, for instance, is to increase various aspects of transparency, to increase the ability of suppliers who service the market to know what the requirements are, to perhaps have input into what those requirements should be. And these are aspects that are not purely bilateral. In other words, whatever mechanisms we put in place along those lines would be available to everybody, including from developing countries who could then take advantage of the increased transparency to better service the markets.